insecurity can be your ministry. Let me say that again. Your insecurity can be your ministry. Let's have a chat. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited to see your beautiful face virtually. If you're new, welcome to the family. If you're not new, welcome back. Before we jump right in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. If you don't know, I upload these weekly chats every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. We talk about God, we talk about life in our 20s, we talk about it all. So make sure you join the family. Okay, today's topic, I always sound excited about them, but I really am, because it's just like, I really just feel like God's just teaching me a new thing every single time, and I'm just so excited to share the new things that I'm learning. So that's why I really genuinely am very excited to film these videos. There's two different sides to this video that I'm going to cover. The very first side is one, accepting yourself for who God created you to be, and the other side of it is what you deem as your insecurity can actually be your ministry or can actually be your purpose. Those are the two sides that I'm going to cover, and I'm going to start with the part about accepting yourself as who you are. So I saw Any Given Sunday talk about this a little bit, where I guess she didn't see herself as a baddie. And it's so funny because when she said that, I was like, yes, because I've always viewed myself in that way. Because when I was younger, I made a whole TikTok about this. When I was younger, I wanted to be a baddie. Those people that they just give and exude baddie energy. Their outfits, their vibe. And when I was younger, I wanted to fit into that box. I was like, yeah, I wanna give baddie to a little baddie, but I get cutesy energy. I smile a lot. I'm not granted, I mean, if I have my moments, or if I really want to be serious and pose, I do have my photos that I'm like, ooh, she could be. But overall, I feel like I give very cutesy energy. I'm very smiley. That's just who I am. And it took me a while to get to the point of being okay with it. Even a little bit further into that topic, this past Saturday I was at a worship night, and I don't know the different categories of the singers, but I know there's the alto, soprano, and tenor, and probably bass. And we're at this worship night, and the guy was singing. I was like, wow, he sounds really, really good. I don't know what category he fits in. Let's just say he's a tenor. And I was like, this man has a really beautiful voice. He had a little like grasp. However, it kind of came into mind, like, what if he was trying to fit into the box of soprano? And I feel like a lot of us, we do that, where God has given us a certain gift. God has created us just to be who we are. But we're trying to fit into a box that we were never meant to fit into. Like he has a beautiful tenor voice. But imagine if he was like, nah, I want to be soprano. Nah, I want to be alto. And he's trying to fit into that area where if you just step aside and be like, nah, I'm a really, really good tenor singer, and he just accepted that, life will be so much beautiful. Same thing with me trying to fit into like this whole baddie aesthetic. It's like, girl, you're not fit into that box. Stop. You look crazy trying to do, like, no, I just cut it out. I had to accept myself for who God created me to be. And I even think a lot of us even waste a lot of time or even delay our purpose trying to be something that we're not, instead of succeeding in the gifts and the talent that God has given us. Instead of you stepping back and be like, what are the gifts that God has given me? What is my strong suit? You don't have to fit into that box because you think this is what you should be. No, use the gifts that God has given. But trying to be something that God never intended you to be is gonna delay you from being what God wanted you to be. And like, there's no fun in that. There's no fun in delaying God's purpose for your life because you're like, no, God, it has to be this way. I have to be an alto singer. Let's even say that God maybe wants to call you into like ministry or something, but you're like, no, God. I think we see this joke a lot of times of like how people are kind of joking about how they don't want to be a pastor's wife and stuff. And it's a joke, trust me, I get it. But I think a lot of us are like, yeah, no, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be that. But it's like, your husband might be going into ministry, and instead you're trying to date other people that are not that, when it's just like, if you just lean into what God has set aside for you, you will realize the bliss in that. You will realize the joy in that, because that's what God intended for you. Instead of you're trying to date somebody that's like a Build-A-Bear project that you could build up, and it's like you're struggling in that relationship, but it's just like, if you just switch to what God has for you and you accept what God has for you, life can be so much more blissful. And I think another thing is a lot of us forget that there are different versions of good. A person could be 5 foot and beautiful. A person could be 6 foot and beautiful. A person could be 100 pounds and beautiful. A person could be 250 pounds and be beautiful. A person could have a PhD and be very successful. A person could have no college degree and be very successful. There are different versions of good, and the moment you begin to accept that, I promise you, life becomes so much more easy. When I got to the point of finally accepting that, like, Kenny, God created you like this. God does not make mistakes. God was not just not in the lab. God was not just up there creating like, oops, my bad, I gave her a little this. Oops, my bad, He's the same person that numbered the hair on our heads. The same person that knitted us in our mother's womb. The same person that created our innermost being. that person did not make a mistake when creating you. He did not. And if we could just shift our lens from there is a reason why God did this. I believe God gave me this whole cutesy vibe because I feel like I come on this channel, people see me, I have a very big smile, I have a happy smile. I feel like people see me and they probably think, oh, she's somebody that I can talk to. She's somebody that I can relate to. Maybe if I was trying to be like a little bad, if you like, oh, why does she seem stuck up? I don't know. I'm just making this up right now. But once you begin to realize that God really, really made no mistake, you can live a much more happy and peaceful life, because trying to be somebody else would never ever bring you joy, because that's not who you were supposed to be. Trying to take a little bit of Tina's personality, a little bit of Shelly's personality, a little bit of Mary's, no. Accept yourself for the way God created you to be. Remind yourself, God did not make a mistake. Why did God give me acne? Why did God give me a gap? Why did God make me 6 foot tall? Why did God make me 5'5"? Why did God give me hip dips? Why did God make, I don't know, one butt bigger than the other? I don't know. But like, the moment you begin to really, really understand that, like, God did not make a mistake in creating me, I promise you begin to be able to see the beauty in things. A lot of things that I deemed insecurities before, I am now looking at it from a positive light. I am now, like my gap, now I even look at my gap. I'm like, I see my mom, I see my brother, because we all have gaps. Like, I see my family in that. I look at my chunky cheeks. It reminds me of my dad's chunky cheeks. All these things, I know that God didn't make a mistake. And while they might have been an insecurity at one point, I can now step back and know that the creator of the universe thought, Kemi needs some chunky cheeks. Kemi needs a little bit of gap. Kemi needs some almond eyes. Like, Kemi needs this, and there's a reason she has that. And he looked at it, and he thought that that was beautiful. And if God can think I'm beautiful, I can think I'm beautiful too. It's not an easy journey. It takes a lot of work, but knowing that the person that created the universe also created me. And he didn't have a little oopsie moment when he added certain traits or certain characteristics to you. He was very intentional. One of the things that has really, really helped me out, which I'm probably going to share about things that have helped me out, kind of just accepting the way God created me, is knowing that God is very, very intentional. He's very, very intentional about his creation. If you really look at the world, you will see his little details in the world. It's like, a lot of people, even when they get their husbands and stuff, it's like, nah, God was very, very intentional with giving me this man and stuff like that, because he knew I would need XYZ. God was very, very intentional when he gave me this job, because he knows that this job will bring out XYZ. I just think it's such a beautiful place to get to, of knowing that, like, I'm beautiful the way I am, not just physically, but I'm beautiful the way I am mentally. And like, growing to love yourself is a lot easier than hating yourself. And like, once you realize this, your light can begin to shine. Your authentic light, the way God wanted your light to shine, can shine. And not in a way where you're dimming certain aspects of yourself. It's like, no, your full light can shine. One of the things that I even mentioned in the TikTok that I made was how I remember my mind used to be, I wouldn't say it was an insecurity, but it was something that bothered me, because sometimes, like I said, I don't try to label myself that, but I have a tendency to overthink. And sometimes my mind can't shut off, and it's so annoying, because sometimes I'm in bed, I'm like, just shut up. Like, I just want to go to bed, and it's just like not shutting off. But I've also learned to like speak life into these things that were insecurities. I now tell myself, I'm like, you have a beautiful mind. I have a mind that God is using to foster new content. I have a mind that God is going to use to foster new inventions. Like, I speak life into myself. I think once you begin to speak life into something, it can grow, it can come into what it was meant to be. The little things that I do is going to be all throughout this video, but one of the things that I remember doing was every single morning when I woke up, I looked at myself in the mirror and I smiled at myself, because I was like, I didn't even realize that there was a point where I wasn't even really looking at myself in the mirror, and I didn't think of it as a big deal, but I'm like, nah, there's something there. And I began to look at myself, and I began to smile at myself in the mirror. You know how sometimes you stare at yourself, you stare at a photo too long and it starts to look a little funky? Nah, stare at yourself till you like what you see in the mirror. Stare at yourself to where you're happy, and not just physical I'm talking about, but also like who you're becoming as a whole individual. Like, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and see the disciplined person, and see the dedicated person, and see the motivated person. I want to be able to look in the mirror and see the full picture of who God wanted me to be, and accept that and be okay with that. Even if like certain things I'm like, ooh, it's a little funky, I'm like, God didn't make no mistake, let me see the beauty in that. And now back to what I said in the intro about how your insecurity can be a ministry. I think this is a very, very crucial part in one, accepting who you are, like I said, but also two, making sure that you're not delaying what God could want to birth the ministry out of, because you're still seeing it as a fault and not a blessing. And I really, really, truly believe this, that a lot of us, our insecurities, like our ministry and a purpose can be birthed out of it. And the person that came to mind when I was thinking about this is Winnie Harlow. I don't know if she's one of the top models in the world, but she's very well known. I feel like everybody knows Winnie Harlow. And one of the first things that probably comes into your mind when you hear the name Winnie Harlow is her vitiligo. I can only imagine when that first happened, I highly doubt she saw it as like a, yay, this is something to celebrate. It definitely probably was an insecurity of like, why is my black skin turning white in certain spots? Like, why is my skin changing? I feel like I've even seen a clip of like America's Next Top Model where she said it was an insecurity for her. And I know that some people with vitiligo, they try to like cover it up. However, that is the same thing that she is now known for. That same vitiligo that was once an insecurity is now her trademark, and she's now known, I feel like, in media, honestly, as like one of the face of vitiligo. I think she's a beautiful human being and stuff, but I bet that when Tyra discovered her, I bet one of the things that probably attracted Tyra was like, she's unique because she has vitiligo. I'm not saying she can't be, I don't know her life story. I'm not saying she couldn't be a model either. However, that thing that was once an insecurity was definitely what like made people captivated by her. That then led on to be a ministry or a purpose. And now I feel like vitiligo has now become an open conversation. She talks more about it and stuff like that. A lot of us, if we really, really start to think of, God gave me this, why? One thing I would like all of us to do is honestly write down our insecurities on a paper. Like, how can a ministry be birthed out of this? Why did God give me this? And I think a lot of us would begin to know that like, there is a purpose for why God gave me this. Like, imagine she just hid it away and was like, no, I'm just gonna cover it up because I just want to be like regular, so to say. Winnie might not be the Winnie Harlow we know today, but because she stepped into that insecurity, she was like, no, I'm gonna lean head forward with it. I'm gonna go ahead and model, and now she's known. And I feel like now because of that, we're seeing more and more models with vitiligo. I know there's one that I follow who that's also something that's very intriguing about her life. So I just want to reiterate that your insecurity can be your ministry, and your insecurity can sometimes birth your purpose. But this could be something that like, it could catapult you to the next level. This could be something that creates an opportunity for you. It could be something that you now spread awareness on. So many things that could come out of that insecurities. And another thing that I kind of wrote down is, I wrote, how can I use this for other people? How can this be of service to other people? Because we are called to serve people. And when that thought comes into your mind, I truly believe and I pray that God will begin to reveal that like, this thing that you deemed an issue was actually meant to use to serve the people, was actually meant to bring me glory, and not just a thing that you take and you hide because you don't like it. I don't know, I really, really can't emphasize the point of like, God is not an oopsie God. He didn't just oops. Like, he was very intentional when he created you. He didn't make a mistake when he created you. I really, really hope, and my prayer, every single person watching this video, is that we begin to let our light shine the way God intended to. I'm just so proud of where God has taken me to, because I didn't even realize some of the insecurities I had were so deep until I began to like compliment myself. I'm like, oh, you've never done that before. I'm like, I like how I look. I like certain things about like I said, I like the way my chunky cheeks perk up. I like the way I had this little fake dimple, which is barely a dimple. But I like the way it is when it's in pictures. I love the fact that I smile so big, my eyes disappear. Like, I began to like these things about myself. I like my height. I like the fact that God made me a little curvy. I like the fact that God made me, I don't know, this ear. I don't know. I began to really, really know that like, God just didn't make a mistake in creating me. And I think that has also helped me is also knowing that God loved me. I made a whole video about how God loves you. I think that's another part of like, once you begin to understand the fullness, it talks about how there's nothing that can measure the height, the width, the depth of God's love for us. I think once you begin to understand God's love for you a little bit, I think that will also help you with certain insecurities as well too. So I just wanted to drop that in there really quick. And I think this is the last thing I'm going to say, but the path to walking in purpose is the path that God has created for you, not the one that he created for somebody else. Anyway, that's it for me, y'all. I will see you in the next video, and bye. Oh, we are all beautiful the way God created us to be beautiful. Toodles. Like, once you really sit on the thought that like, God didn't make a mistake when he made me this way, I think once you really sit on it and like, you really accept it and you believe it and you just like, it sits into your noggin, I think that life can be just so like, wow. I really, really believe so, because knowing that God didn't make a mistake is like, you're almost like forced to see the beauty in it, because you're just like, he didn't make a mistake, so there's a reason. And I don't know about you, but like I like to understand things, and I'm like, okay, since there's a reason, I'm gonna find out the why. And I really believe in moments like that is when those things that are deemed insecurities, that's when you can really, like I said, find your purpose in it and stuff like that. So yeah, just really keep telling yourself and know that God didn't make a mistake in the way he made you. God made you exactly how he wanted to make you for this time, for this season, for the people you're going to come across. Like God knew you were needed for such a time like this. Who did they say that about? Esther. Yeah, I think Esther. God knew that you were needed for such a time like this. And like I said, I'm talking about physical, but I'm also not. It also goes beyond physical. It goes beyond the mental, just who you are as an individual. God made you for a certain time. Yeah. And lastly, the path of success is the path that God has created for you.